Welcome to the Right Now Writers Group, meeting number 12. Do you need weekly motivation? Do you need inspiration? Or maybe, just maybe, you need to procrastinate a little bit and chat with some other writers? Well, you've come to the right place. We are a weekly writing group where we just meet up and we talk about all things writing. So if you want to join in the group, you want to hop on the camera with us, post a comment, drop a comment saying, hey, I want to become a Right Now Writers Group member, and I will include you in the future meeting invites. Welcome to the Right Now community. I'm Kauffman, and I'm on a mission to help the writers of the world with the process, lifestyle, and mindset that it takes to become a writer. So come join the community because we're starting right now. All right, let me bring up all my friends back into the stream and welcome, everybody.
Yes.
Hello.
I'm so glad to have everyone here here today. I know we're used to seeing our weekly favorites, Chatsoul and Crazy Root Beer. For a real quick, for our audience who just doesn't know, you guys want to just do a real quick intro? Who are you? What you writing about? What's the thing we're working on today? Maybe we're writing something cool, hopefully.
Well, I actually just started a new story, which I got a random prompt idea from a movie I've seen like a million times. I'm usually writing my fan fictions, but I'm starting a fantasy story. Well, it's kind of like fantasy based in reality kind of thing. So I might be working on that today. I might be working on one of my fan fictions. Still trying to decide.
I totally approve. Cool. I feel like the number of times I've been inspired by seeing a movie or a TV show, and I'm like, all right, that gives me an idea.
It's always up to have my hand. Because I've seen that movie. I've seen The Road to El Dorado like 1,000 times, if not more.
Ooh,
and then the other day I'm watching it, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm using that line. I'm actually going to be using that prompt as the title for this book.
That's so cool. Because our writer brains can just pick up different things. We've seen it however many times, and it's like, now I'm going to tell you about this.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I think with a lot of my storytelling, I end up picking a lot of characters, themes, and tropes from pre-existing stories, and then asking myself, how can I do it better? Or do it in a way that I feel like I can do it more effectively.
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. I'm HollyDavis. I'm the author of A Diamond Bright and Broken, which is releasing in almost a month, November 5th of this year. It is a, yes.
I thought it was coming out on the 4th.
No, it's coming out on the 5th, among other exciting things happening that day.
Well, nothing's happening the week of November 4th. There's nothing going on in the U.S. economy or U.S. social system. Not at all.
Yeah, so... yeah, it's a young adult fantasy. I will be working on the sequel right now that I've been working on since May, so making slow but steady progress. I was on vacation last week, so I didn't get to write, so I'm almost at 40K. I keep being like a couple hundred words away from that mark, so I'm hoping to hit that and then some.
Ooh, sounds like we need to make some progress today.
Yes.
I'll throw it down to you guys at the bottom over there.
Crazy, you can go first.
All right. Crazy Root Beer here, of course. And yes, I did say that. And I've been working on a series for about, I want to say right now, 7 weeks or something like that. And I have just started earlier today. I just finished my 3rd Raziel Chronicles book. So it's the end of the Raziel Chronicles. Very sad. But some of the characters from the book trilogy are going to still be in the series itself. One of them has already done that so far. And for my stories, it's kind of like a mix of, especially for certain characters, I've grabbed them from video games and just a tiny bit of the MCU a little bit and kind of mushed them together.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm super impressed that you've gone. You said what? You're on book 5 or book
I am
6 already?
on book. Well, I just finished book 7.
Ooh, that's awesome. Good for you, my friend. I'm still working on
Nice.
book 1 of my series. I feel so far behind everyone. But then I remember not to compare myself to others.
Exactly.
I think this is like my campaign slogan for the next like 3 months. Don't compare yourself to others. That's what I'm going to keep doing repetitively.
Hi there. I'm Emil Claxton. My real name's Michael, but most everybody here calls me ML. That's because that's my pen name. Tonight I'm going to be trying to work on the third novella in a series that I'm got 2 novellas already on Kindle, and I'm trying to get the third one up because I've got readers that are asking where's the third one, so I'm trying to get it. Plus, I'm also been working on trying to get Preptober stuff done for the second book in my Necromancer series. So,
Well, that's exciting. That's exciting, Emil. It sounds like you got a lot on your plate right now. I feel like it's probably a really great problem to have when you have people asking, "Where's the next book?" That seems like a good problem for a writer to be in.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Well-
okay, if you have readers who love your writing and they want more, I'm like, yes, success.
Very much
Well-
so.
I'm retired, so I guess I've got nothing else to do.
Hey, that means that's like the perfect time to start pumping out all the masterpieces from
Yeah.
all like the life experience. I'm like, when I hit that retired life, you can bet I'll probably do much of the same of what I'm doing right now. Out my consistency. That's awesome.
I retired from the as a state employee. I supervised the food stamp welfare and medical card office for 13 years. So
Oof.
I have
you must have dealt with your share of both very fun and nice individuals, I'm sure, over time.
Nice.
I have the patience of Job.
Yeah, I did customer service for 10 to 15 years. And I went after it. I went back and I looked back and I'm like, okay, if I average how many people I helped out, and I think I averaged about 200,000 people over about a 10 years time span. And I'm like, you get people from all different like walks of life and ranges and ages. I feel like those who work in customer service really actually come to understand at least a side of people as they're willing to present themselves in public.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you all for joining me today. Let me first off, before I hop into, I have a really good topic on my mind actually. So I have a burning question for you guys. But before that, let me just welcome Courtney. Welcome to the stream. LeMay, welcome. And Ms. Lynn Stevenson Ivers, welcome, my friend. And let's see, we have a good crew of writers here. Roth, welcome over from Holly's community. Glad to have you here. Engineer, my friend, I am doing great. I am stoked. I'm finally editing in the edit of Last Scarecrow. So hopefully making some progress today. We're going to see. I spent the last month prepping, as you well know. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that I can get through the second draft in the next couple months. And Megan, welcome. Last night, I bubble methoded my idea for the Flash Fiction contest and worked on chapter 5 of my fanfic. That is so cool. For those of you who don't know, Megan's referring to our Freaky Friday Flash Fiction contest, which we're hosting at the end of the month. Submission deadlines are next Sunday. I'll do an ad for it in a little bit, but super cool. I'm really excited. I know there's a lot of excitement over doing these Flash Fiction stories. I've never tried to write a horror Flash Fiction story before, but we'll see. We'll see how these come out. And let's see. Awesome. And Gore, welcome to the stream. So I had an interesting idea for the Scarecrow. What if absorbing other long dead scarecrows gives Scarecrow memories of the past and new minor skills that he can use on his adventure? That's kind of like a memory ability. I feel like all of us have probably written characters with magic abilities before, right? Like I feel like we probably all have.
Mhm.
I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. And then so that's kind of cool, Gorkon. Thank you for that. Let me think about it, and I'm going to get back to you on that because that's actually a really cool idea. And then Lynn, what's the title of the Necromancer series, the genre? Actually, ML, Lynn would be a really good one to connect with. Lynn, I know Lynn, remind me how many books you have out, but Lynn has a number of books out for her series that is about a necromancer. It's about like a necromancer type dynamic. I'm not super familiar with it, but I know you guys sound like might be writing in the same genre.
Okay.
14. So Lynn's 14 books out. So incredible work. But ML, what's the title of your necromancer series?
Dead Caster.
That's right. I know we've actually read an excerpt of it, I believe, in one of the critique shows.
I think it was maybe 2 months ago.
That was a vampire excerpt, a series about vampires that you all read. So, because I've written
story.
2 novels in the vampire series, but those were written 15 years ago, so they're messes.
Oh wow!
And it's like gotta refine it over time, right?
Sometimes it really helps to have a project that you worked on a long time ago, because then you've had that many years of it just kind of mulling and stewing, and then you kind of really know the character. So sometimes a good thing.
I know.
And the genre is paranormal fiction, and the main characters are all LGBTQ plus. So
yes, love it. Representation. Nice. Amen.
Yes,
absolutely love it. Well, let's see. And then we got a couple more here. Emma Bennett, welcome to the stream, and I appreciate it. Don't forget to boop the like button. Much appreciated, my friend. We are so close to hitting that 500 subscriber mark soon, and then we'll launch the WriteNow Discord coming up. Lynn said book 5 of her Necromancer series is coming out on Friday. That is awesome. Lynn, on Friday, drop by the stream and send me the link, and we'll throw it in the chat on Friday's stream. That's super cool. Very, very awesome. Evening, Marcella. Welcome. Glad to have you in here. Tiara, Nell, you guys rock. So, all right. I have a great question that's been on my mind lately, and I love that we have our mascots here to help represent us. I'm like, I actually think we're all, I think most of us have a lot of cats. I feel like most of the writers in this group have cats. I feel like I'm personally a mix of I love my cats and my dogs. All cats and dogs are created equal in my heart. But okay, so this is a question that's been on my mind, and I would love for the community for you to weigh in as well. Pantsers and plotters. Over the past 6-9 months, I've been becoming more and more acquainted, right, with the pantser versus plotter debate. Are you a pantser or a plotter? As I've been thinking more and more about it, I'm starting to wonder, are pantsers really a real definition? Are they a true thing? Here's my theory. A pantser by heart is somebody who just goes in and writes a book. They go in and they just do it without any planning whatsoever. And for starting that off for a story, that could be fun, sure, when you're starting it off. But by definition, the amount of work that a writer has to do in planning on the back end doesn't coexist with the definition of a pantser. Can you be a can anyone truly write a book without planning, without doing any type of planning for their novel? Even let's say you do the first draft, second draft, you're going to have to do planning. You're going to have to fix all the problems. I don't know if there's any successful best-selling book where no planning is involved. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts because I feel like I need to challenge the definition of what a pantser is, because it's kind of been ruminating the past couple months.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me. It might just be a me thing.
I'll say this. Pirates was mostly pantsed. Burning Ember was mostly pants. I mean, I had the ending planned, but the rest of that, I didn't have any of that planned until I actually sat down and started writing it. And then it's like, okay, so I know I'm supposed to get Kasai, the main character, to this point. Really terrible for him, but I have no idea how I'm going to get there. So I just started writing. And then it's like, I knew what I was doing about 2 chapters before it actually happened. So it was mainly pants.
Okay, but
Even
you
the
must
second
have
book
had
was
it like
about
done some.
those
You must have
pants.
had it done some planning on fixing it after the fact, wouldn't you have? Wouldn't you have had to like fix characters or things on the back end?
Well, when I actually had the entire book written and I started to go back and like edit and stuff, then I could start fixing everything that I could start going back and making sure, okay, this detail here didn't actually happen, even though I thought it did. So do I want to take it out? Do I want to add it into the earlier part? This character here appeared once and then never came back. Do I really want them there, or do I want to add them in later? Things like that. It wasn't until I started getting into like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th drafts that I actually started not exactly planning, but I started fixing things. And even the 2nd book, no, that's been entirely pantsed for the most part. The only time I actually planned something was the middle of the book. And that was more because Kasai had some big secret that it was supposed to devastate him. It was supposed to cause a massive rift, and I could not do that without planning it. So that one was kind of an exception, but in like all my fan fictions, most of those are pantsed. I think the only one that was actually plotted might have been Have Lasting Consequences. It was a sequel to The Choices We Make, my first one that I wrote this year. So the sequel to that one was plotted because I had a specific ending I wanted for that. It was supposed to be about closure. But like the one I'm writing right now, the Lunarian one, I still have no idea how it's going to end. I barely have anything past chapter 18 planned because like I know the part I'm at right now, and I know that Silas, the main character, is supposed to actually speak at some point. I have no idea when it's going to happen. I have no idea how this is going to end.
Interesting. And I think like, okay, so like I think a lot of writers can start off with that ideology of pantsing, right? I just write it, follow my inspiration. I've done it so many times before, but can a writer truly finish a whole book? Because like editing has to happen, planning has to happen, so many different elements.
Yeah,
I don't know. What
I
do
feel
you
like because I feel like maybe people that call themselves pantsers are more so like plotting in their head and not really writing it down, because probably as you're writing a chapter, then that's giving you ideas for future chapters, but you're not like exactly writing it down, planning it, knowing it ahead of time. But as you're going, you're kind of keeping it in the back of your mind to write in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly how I would describe that. Is I never wrote any of my ideas down. I just knew I wanted my character to get from this point to that point, and it just went as it went.
I think personally, I think that it's the definitions are for the first draft, and then the definition goes out the window after that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I've always
I know.
thought like people have to plot, like plotting versus pantsing is more so for the first draft, because that was my thought. How can you edit? How can you pants editing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's like, I mean, I see your point, right? So I'm planning it out in my head as I'm writing it. But let's say you pants out a chapter. Unless like a writer has a high skill level, won't they have to fix it on the back end at some way, shape? Or let's say you're doing like 100,000 word story. Won't you have to fix character development? I don't know any writer who can perfectly craft through character development, world building, dialogue, plot, and structuring the book in one draft.
No.
I mean, I don't know, unless maybe they're like Stephen King or Brandon Sanderson.
Possible.
Point,
I think that's still impossible. They would be a unicorn.
Yeah, no matter how good you are, no matter how much you've written, how long you've written, no one can do it on the first try. There's always going to be something to fix. Even when you think you've perfected it, there's always going to be something to fix.
I know it looks like we have a couple of really good comments from our community. Marcella was saying, I think the difference is the amount of planning people do. For mine, lately I list out a bunch of people's possible scenarios and my characters veer towards whichever one makes the most sense for them. Which that kind of sounds like a little bit like what you were saying, Soul, how you're kind of like planning it as you're going. Megan said, I'm a pantser. I scatter ideas around that it covers all over the page in a notebook. That's like with me and sticky notes. I got like so many sticky notes posted up everywhere. Lynn was like, I have 20-page outlines. Like, all right, Lynn, so you're probably more like me. We're planning over here. I usually veer away from them around 75% of the way through. Okay. So it sounds like it's a mixed approach. Like you're planning it out up to a point where you finally start understanding the story that you're writing. And I think planning can be different for everyone. So I think that's really interesting. So then I think that what the question comes down to is the level of planning that we end up doing for the stories, whether the planning happenings before we write, while we're writing, or after we write. Yeah.
Honestly, for me, and my book series, I don't necessarily plan as I write. I've already got it all planned. I've got all the fixins. I know how many characters there's going to be. I know who's going to be what. It's mostly just, well, I know all that, and I know a little bit of the ending and the actual big people they're going to be facing. It's just mostly, okay, how do I introduce these people to everybody, and how do I get them in some kind of a journey to lead them into who they're supposed to be in the future.
Interesting. So you're really trying to plan out how the characters are really connecting with one another as they're connecting with like the plot, so to speak.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious for all of our writers here. What's your number one strength as a writer? Does everyone have like the one thing that they feel like they're awesome at?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know with myself, I've noticed that I tend to really be good at emotional scenes, and it doesn't have to be like I'm really good at happiness or sadness or anger. It's just I've noticed, especially with my past two stories, that any kind of strong emotion, no matter what it is, I really seem to be getting good at that. And I have a writing group that I do on Tuesday nights, and they've pointed out I am really good at fight scenes.
You're really good at fight scenes.
Apparently, I think I watched too much anime.
We read one of your critique. I want to say of all your excerpts we read on the critique show, I remember the fight scene. I think we read 2 different fight scenes. They were so engaging. And I think it was the combination of your description, the way you use description and action to keep the reader engaged, which was actually very well done.
I can see that.
Did you consider starting your book off on a fight scene? Or does it start off on a fight scene? It almost makes me think that you should start a story off on a fight scene, since that's like a strength and that would pull people in immediately.
That may not be a bad idea. I know the new book that I'm working on right now. Actually, I have been wanting to start that with something that's not exactly mundane. So maybe it wouldn't exactly be a fight scene considering the nature of the story so far, but I could probably do something similar and start it off with a little bit more action.
What about the rest of you guys? What's your strength as a writer? As like I know for myself, I think plotting. I think plotting tends to be my strength. Characters, I kind of go back and forth. Maybe world building. I'm going back and forth and where I feel the strongest, but I think plotting. I think it's because I love crafting intricate plots and then doing foreshadowing and the different elements. I know with Scarecrow, I feel like the one thing that I didn't really have to fix for the second draft was the core plot. I feel like the plot itself was pretty strong. It's just fixing a lot of the other elements to serve the story. Yeah.
Like I used to, in the very first book, I used to be think that I was actually doing really good with focusing on individual characters to where people who would read them would feel emotionally involved with them, be like, somebody that they'd love to hang out with and whatnot. And I still try to do that, but the more books I write, the less that happens. Even though I try so hard, I just end up going with the rest of the story and ignoring them in general.
Okay, so you're like, I'm just having fun with this character. I'm gonna stick with these characters,
and I'm having fun with the story that they're in general. That I always go, oh right, I didn't even describe who that person was.
I'll come back to that later. Put it on a sticky note. Problem to fix later.
Yes.
I think that's a good thing, though. I think focusing in, I think being able to balance in the fun aspect of writing, like that's part of what keeps us motivated in the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely agreed. And then I know it looks like we had a couple new members. Mary, welcome to the stream. And Ms. Zara. Oh my goodness, it's going to take me forever, Holly.
Zara.
I don't know why it's going to take me so long. I try to get names right with customer service for over 20 years. So let me tell you.
Yes.
So welcome. Glad to have you in here. And let's see. It looks like Megan was saying being one with my characters and sometimes my improvisations on scenes. Then when I had a plan in my head shine through in my scenes. Lynn is like my sentence level prose. I'm good at keeping things going to keep readers reading. That's actually a really great strength because like we need the pacing. Pacing is so important. Obscure origin almost goes directly into a fight scene.
Yes.
Blending the right music when writing to fit the scene or scenario going on. I was like having a good music playlist is so important.
My
researching skills. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that it all goes back to when you're writing and you listen to a certain song on your playlist while you're writing about whatever it is, it just fits perfectly.
Nice.
I know. I think one of my first scripts, I think I wrote it purely off of like song lyrics. It was one of like the first scripts that I ever did. And I just, when you get into the vibe. Awesome.
For your question. For your question, I think one of my strengths is I can fit humor in, my characters can fit humor into like scenes that really, diffuse the tension, So, a lot of my characters could be classified as smart asses.
Let's go.
I have such respect for that. I really do. Comedy is not one of my strengths. And I knowingly, I know very well comedy is a weakness for me. So that's something that I really have to work on with characters, since everything has to have elements of comedy or you don't have that balance.
I'm good.
Yeah, I know my characters, they struggle with I struggle with making them humorous. I mean, I can make them sarcastic. I can make them actually even cheerful. I just cannot make them funny. At least not without putting a crap ton of effort into it. And even then, it is terrible.
What about you, Holly? What's your strength?
I think I'm good at internal monologue and
so a lot of interiority.
Yeah. I feel good at that, and kind of that sentence level prose that whoever before was saying.
I believe that was Lynn. So with sentence structure, syntax, prose, dynamic. Those are good, definitely very good strengths to have. I think what I love about what all you guys shared is everyone has a different kind of specialty or an area where they're working in.
Yeah.
I always bring up the strength conversation because it then makes me challenge what is the weakness that we're working on. Do you guys try to improve on your weakness as a writer over time, or are you it'll just improve inherently? Are you guys intentional about it, or is that just a me thing? 10 years ago I'm I suck at adjectives. That's gonna the thing I'm gonna just work on for 5 years, so I don't use too many or too less. Let me tell you, my college stuff, oh man, let me just put my hood up in shame at how
I think it's being
I was the same way with run-on sentences. I'm am I really doing a run-on sentence and I don't even know it? But I've gotten better at that and have focused on like, okay, let's not make this a run-on sentence. So I've gotten better at that.
Mm. Yeah, I think
Pro.
it's something that I like am consciously aware of. So even if I still make all those mistakes in the first draft, I know to look out for it while I'm editing. Like, so for me, it would be like descriptions, because I really like to write dialogue, and then I'm like, oh, this is kind of becoming white room syndrome or the talking head syndrome, and I'm like, oh, I'll work on that. And then
white room syndrome? What's
yeah,
that? What's white room syndrome?
White room syndrome is like talking head syndrome, where like you can stick those two characters that are talking anywhere, like, and because
then
you're not
that's
describing
more a problem with like dialogue, then, right? Because
Well-
essentially, just the dialogue isn't unique enough to the characters, and it still feels like it's in your voice, right?
Well, it's more so that like you could just put them in a white room and the scene wouldn't change, because you're not describing the setting, like other people in the room or smells and sounds and things like that. So like kind of immersing, setting the scene. Yeah. So that's something that I always, think to work on, and then always showing versus telling. When
I think showing versus telling is probably okay. After 160 critique stories in this past like 9 months, I think showing versus telling is probably one of the biggest, or one of the most common. I would say dialogue rules and showing versus telling are just the most common I've seen from the past 9 months. I wonder why that is. It's probably because of description, of figuring out how do I describe which senses and how many senses to use in a way that feels realistic.
Yeah, without bogging it down.
Yeah.
For me, editing was the weakness, and I had to try to learn some of the fundamentals. I had a friend who who works as an editor, so she helped me with fundamentals and helped with resources, and I had to come up with a style guide on how I wanted to handle things. And Crazy Pro Writing Aid is wonderful for finding those sentences over 30 words long.
That's really awesome. I know I've been so used to working like my own sphere for so many years, and now trying out some of these writing programs. I checked out Pro Crazy it's like Pro Crazy Writing Aid. I checked out that program, and then I checked out AutoCrit as well, and ended up trying out AutoCrit. Nice. And I think I love that it helps you with all like the editing stuff on there in terms of breaking down each of the elements. But I'm sure both the programs are probably have a lot of similar aspects, would be my guess.
Yeah, I've used a bit of Pro Writing Aid and AutoCrit at one point, but then I need to go back to it because I know it was helpful when I did use it.
I know it looks like here in the chat, Courtney is like, biggest weakness of mine would be grammar. 1,000%. Dang, Courtney, that's a big weakness. Not just like 100, 1,000%. Let's see. And I know we got some random love. Courtney's like, I love sassy characters. And I love that. Crazy, you're getting the love here with your Star Wars hat.
Yeah.
I approve of the Force. Let's see. Zara, you're loving the accent, ML. There we go.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Eastern Kentucky.
I wish I had a cool accent.
Same.
Let's see, engineers. I usually go with visuals because, like you, I don't take a whiff whenever you walk into a new room. So if I'm to describe smells or feels, it must be something that becomes relevant later. Which, speaking to our, what was it? Our showing versus telling. Showing versus telling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Megan's like, grammar is my weakness. Yeah, grammar is always a challenging one. Absolutely. Grammar, sentence structure. Mine is rushing the scene. So that can be literally like the pacing. Pacing can be challenging. I can feel pacing as a challenge when I'm getting close to the end of my story. and I'm like, I need
Mm-hmm.
to finish it. It's so good. I just want
Yes.
to get it. I just want to write it. And especially on the live streams, I'm like, people might be reading it or people might be ignoring it. I don't know. What do I know?
That's such a good point. That's me too. I'm like, oh, I'm almost to like the midpoint, and like that's you know, or whatever, the Dark Night of the Soul. You're just like trying to get there, and
I know, right? As I was writing the midpoint, I was rushing to like get to the thing, and then I realized I'm like, I have to kill off a character. And then I didn't want to write it anymore. It was the most difficult scene to write. I know I've said this before, but when I was writing the midpoint on the stream, I think I was literally crying on the camera, but I was on the little like I was on the small square next to the big writing thing, so I don't think anyone saw. I'm like crying as I'm like killing off my character, and I love them, and I'm like, oh, I'm such a writer.
Oh. You're not a writer if you don't cry while you're killing a character.
True.
For
At
the
least
story.
Yes.
Let's see. I was like, speaking is my biggest weakness, but love Google. I mean, Google is everyone's friend in this day and age, right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Very much.
What's up, Josh? My biggest weakness is that I fall in love with a lot of my side characters and forget all about developing my protagonists. That sounds like a fun problem to have, because that tells me that you have a lot of characters that are fun to explore. Engineers, like, my weakness is knowing when to stop. PR is saying I get so many comments on my dialogue tags. Definitely a huge weakness of mine. Well, no worries, TR. Dialogue tags and dialogue rules is probably one of like the most common things I see with dialogue. Aw. So speaking of weaknesses, and clearly we all have like different styles and different types of weaknesses. What's something that you guys have like learned from like trying to improve on your weakness? Maybe we could provide some value to our live community here.
Well, I know when I try to improve on sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I know when I try to actually make my characters, when I try to put humor into my my stories, that honestly is probably my biggest weakness, is because I'm not a humorous person. I get annoyed when my husband gives puns. I mean, and honestly, the fact that I use
that's getting punny with you.
It's a big thing for me, because I don't like that kind of stuff. And putting it into my writing is kind of difficult for me. But as I try to work on it, I've stopped thinking of the characters as, okay, so like for some writers, their characters are extensions of themselves in some way. The second I stop thinking of my character as that kind of a person,
when you kill your character off, it's like killing off yourself.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, no, definitely. I can agree with that. But when I stopped thinking of the character as an extension of myself, at least in that moment, it seemed to help a lot. And I'm not sure why that helps so much, but now granted, my characters are not comedians now, but they do have their humorous moments. Like the fan fiction I'm working on right now with Silas. Yeah, no, I wasn't an 11-year-old with an attitude, not like him at least. So him actually just getting pissed and flying off when he didn't know he could fly, to me that was funny, because I mean, no, I couldn't relate to that, but it was because I couldn't relate to it that I could actually make that funny for some reason.
Well, I think that's that type of ideology that why do people laugh when they're watching someone do a crazy stunt and they fail it miserably? Like, why do we laugh? And I think it's almost like, I think there's like a psychological thing. I saw this on some channel at some point, but I think there's a psychological thing for something that should be like a painful experience. We have this thing of like, oh, that's funny, because we're almost laughing at covering up at how painful we think it would be. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I've heard that somewhere before.
That actually makes sense. I've laughed at a friend of mine when she fell on roller skates, and I really should not have. And I felt so terrible about that.
I think that's happened to me before, where somebody does something like really stupid, or maybe they're just clumsy or something happens, they hurt themselves, but then your initial reaction is you laugh. But it's you like pull yourself back.
It's like a defense mechanism, kind of, to like, I never thought about it like that. It makes sense. I think for me, like with descriptions and everything, it's helped to like read other stories and see like how they describe things and being like, oh my gosh, like they had a couple paragraphs of this where like I probably would have just jumped right into some dialogue. So I think like reading other people's work has helped me. And sometimes if I hear or like if I'm listening to an audiobook or if I'm reading and like get a good line that I'm like, ooh, this is like really unique or describe something really well, then I like make note of that to use like in the future to kind of help like build my repertoire, because I can tend to maybe I might use the same things over and over again, but that kind of helps expand the description. So
that's actually a really good point. It almost brings up the point, that idea of, do we become better writers through what we read? Do you guys think it's a prerequisite to be a writer by reading, that you have to be a reader to be a successful writer?
No.
You don't have to read to be a good writer, but only the best writers are only the people who read can be one of the best writers out there. Storytelling in any form, anyone can do it if they put their mind to it. But you have to expose yourself to other forms, to whatever you're doing, to get a much deeper understanding of whatever it is you're doing. I mean, my books, I learned how to write by reading Aaron Hunter, by reading L.A. Meyer, and then by reading Jean M. Auel. I was decent before I really understood what I was doing, and then I really started to actually pay attention to how all those series were written. And I started to actually like, okay, so I know you say don't compare yourself to other writers, but I did. And not in the terms of, oh, I want to be as good as them. I compared myself in the aspect of, how does my writing resemble theirs? What is the difference? What are the similarities? What have I picked up from them that I've made my own? And what have I maybe missed? When I read the Bloody Jack series, I learned about how to write adventures. I learned how to write adventures. I learned how to write characters that they go through tragedy and tragedy and tragedy after tragedy. And they
I love what you're saying, but I think Zuko, Holly's cat, really wants to weigh in on this conversation.
He is so chatty, but I think today, I was gone for a week, so he was like, you left me, and then you went to work today, and now you're back, so like he's a very much a mama's boy. So
clearly Zuko is well read as well and completely agrees with your point. Or maybe Zuko completely disagrees. I don't speak cat.
Yeah, he's being very chirpy today. Yes.
But I just compared my own writing to what I read, and I noticed the similarities, I noticed the differences, and I started picking out what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I just kind of went from there. And reading back through my own fan fictions, I've actually started reworking one of my first one, the choices we make, and I'm noticing that there's a lot of similarities between that and a lot of the fan fictions I've been reading. And it's weird because I never noticed that until I actually started paying attention. I've always been good at descriptions, but I didn't notice until after I read the Earth Children series. My description started resembling OL's, and it was really interesting seeing that difference once I actually noticed it. I think I could have eventually gotten to that level of what I could do at some point. But because I kept reading that series over and over and over again, it really like ingrained it in my mind what I should do and what I shouldn't do. Which really
makes
helped.
sense. Well, I think it's interesting because you're coming at the comparison aspect of this actually from a very, very positive standpoint of, I want to improve as a writer. I'm going to look at another book, compare their structure to mine, and then learn how to improve. And that it actually is a type of comparison. But I think, and I fully agree with that. I actually think that's a very, very valid point. I didn't even think about it from that aspect. I think what I see a lot of time with comparison, and one of the reasons with like writer's block and motivation and a lot of things that hold up writers is a lot of times because they're comparing some aspect of the process to something else or somebody else or some other story they've read or just something. Maybe it's social media based, maybe it's another book. And then it ends up minimize or making themselves feel minimized with their self-esteem. So I'm kind of feel like I'm realizing after talking with so many writers every day that comparison itself seems to be the most predominant enemy. But I think to your point, Soul, that anything can have both a positive or a negative to it. I think a lot of times beginner writers end up weighing out using more the negative aspect of it. But I think relying on how do I use it in a way that's actually like beneficial is very powerful. And I mean, like when you get to the point in your author journey, and I mean, for those of you guys, I want to say most of you guys are published. I'm not published yet. Soul, Holly, I know you're published. Crazy, you've published your books as well, right? ML, have you published any of your books yet?
Yes.
Or are you writing out the series? Okay, yeah. So
No.
all 4 of you guys are published. So once you get the book published, obviously you probably have to compare it to better figure out your readership, right? And you probably need to understand your readership and do some aspects of comparing there for future stories. This actually kind of brings up a really good point. Will you guys adjust your storytelling for later books in a series or your writing based on feedback? If like the stories less on like, oh, my feedback as a writer, but more on like, oh, I like this character. Oh, I hate this plot. Oh, this part of the world is cool. Do you guys take that into consideration?
I know in
I
my
would.
fan fictions, I paid attention to what people actually seem to be enjoying, and then I work with that.
Okay.
And then I will pay and like the first few fan fictions I wrote, they weren't bad. But I started reading like really popular ones. I started reading the longer ones, the ones that had a lot of comments, a lot of kudos on an archive of our own. And I started adjusting my own writing to kind of not exactly match it, but kind of flow with that. And then suddenly I'm having stories that are having over 1,000 views within 2 weeks because I matched it. And I think one of my most popular ones.
That's awesome. That's really.
I think it has
cool
like
story.
2,800 views already, and it's been like 2 months.
Wow.
And that's because I matched the flow of it compared to what I'd done before. What I'd done before wasn't bad, but I improved on it, and I worked with something that I knew was not something I was entirely familiar with, but something I knew I could work with.
Okay. That's awesome. How about the rest of you guys? Are there any like major elements of your stories you ended up changing because of feedback from your readership?
Well, for me, I take what my beta readers, tell me, and I usually try to, I know that everyone says that, you don't have to take, it's your story, but that you don't have to take their advice. But, I try to take their advice because, it's the reader that that I've got to try to please. I could write, if I'm writing for myself, everything's wonderful, but, I can't buy all my books, so a few readers have to buy a few. So,
ML, I love that. If I'm writing for myself, everything's wonderful.
Yeah, I think I would take that into consideration, like for my novel, like if there was time, like just depending on when I write things. But if like if they're like, oh, I really like this character, like this one character becomes like a beloved like character that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that character resonated with people so much, then maybe I would include more of that character in the future story if they weren't, or something like that. Or they didn't like something for whatever reason. that's why I think it's, for me, when I do start getting like reviews, I only want to see the good ones, but then I want like someone to tell me collectively, this is things that could be improved for future stories.
This is the worst character I've ever read in 20 years of reading experience, and it's not realistic, and it's
Well, they say you're not supposed to read your bad reviews, so.
You're like, does it start off with 1 star or any type of negativity? All right, reject. I just have this like filter.
Books are subjective.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
Some people, it could be, there's Stephen King makes millions of dollars, but there's people who do not like Stephen King's books. So not every book is for every reader. So, and sometimes readers, find a book that really wasn't up their alley. So they still feel the need, even though they picked unwisely, they still feel the need to leave the negative review saying your book sucked.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Have you guys had any of your published books yet? And clearly, I'm sure I'll deal with this after I publish Scarecrow. But have you guys had instances where you've received like a higher number of negative reviews on like a certain aspect of it? Or can you tell like, okay, they're just clearly trying to troll me?
I've not even sold a single one of my books, so I have no idea.
I don't know yet. Hopefully not.
I don't have that many reviews, but I don't have any negative reviews. So
that's good.
So most of my reviews are 5. So
that's awesome.
I'm happy with that.
I think definitely
even
something
3 or 4.
I know something.
I've sold more than 3 or 4, but trying to get somebody, that's the hardest part, is trying to get the people who buy them to get them to actually review. I'd rather have honest reviews and have more reviews than no reviews at all. So,
yeah.
Something interesting I always took away from customer service was that people would very rarely leave a great review for the coffee shop if they felt like it was a good experience. If somebody got the wrong drink, the wrong food, it was a bad experience, they're going to leave. They're going to leave their mind. They will let you know how they feel.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think it speaks to that aspect of how do you get somebody to feel a strong enough emotion to then respond to it? And I think that's probably the heart of getting a review, short of asking people for a review or offering some type of incentive. No, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then here in the chat, by the way, Ralph had a really great quote. Ralph, you're winning our quote of the day, by the way. Comparison, they say, is the thief of joy.
It is.
Let's see. The good thing about writing, there are billions of people around the world who your book may be loved. Absolutely. And I think this speaks to it being subjective. Like you said, ML, like all feedback is technically subjective, and what could work well for one reader might be the wrong one for another, even if they like the same genre. And I think style is definitely an aspect of it. Readers getting into like, oh, I like their style of writing. I know Lynn said, I see reviews on Amazon as marketing. People who don't like one aspect and review it as poorly might highlight what other readers are looking for. Don't like one aspect and might highlight what other readers. And it's a good research aspect, right? So if somebody calls out something to some type of review and they're speaking to something that some type of miss in the story, for me, I'm like, okay, well, let me think about it from a logical standpoint. Does it feel like there was a missed opportunity there? Which it could be possible. But I think then if 10 people say the same thing, stronger likelihood.
Yeah, definitely kind of that majority, like not majority rules, but at least would give you some pause to look into it more.
Awesome. So I think we had some really great conversations so far. I feel like we were all getting wrapped up in the conversations. and which is a great thing because we're here as a bunch of writers. So, but what do you guys feel about getting a little bit of writing in?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. So let's do a writing sprint. But before that, most importantly, if you are here in the stream, you should follow and subscribe. We're here every day with the Right Now community, 275 live streams and counting. And clearly, many, many more to come. Whether you're here for a Right Now writers group on Wednesdays, our author podcast on Sundays, the critique show, writing sprints, we are here every single day. And we have many, many live events coming up. I'll talk about the flash fiction contest after the sprint, but tap that button because we are less than 10 subscribers away from the 500 subscriber milestone. And once we hit that, I will officially launch the Right Now Discord. So that way we can all chat and all keep up on the conversation off the live stream, outside of the live stream. So tap that button, share it with a friend, and I appreciate you. All right, my friend. So I have the sprint. Let me pull up the thing, remembering to actually do this. All right, there we go. So there's that random screen background. 25 minutes seems like a good time. So whether you want to join us for a writing sprint, whether you're brainstorming, writing, or editing, that all counts. Let's get some work done and we'll check in. We'll see how our writing's doing after the sprint. I will throw up the music. I think I'm all ready. Beautiful. So I got 25 minutes on the clock and it's time to write now. All right. And writing sprint done. Wonderful. Perfect. All right, my friends. Welcome back. How did that writing sprint treat Elio?
Not bad.
Let's see. I got 405 words and officially passed the 40K mark. Yay!
Nice.
That's some good progress. That's awesome. You're
Yes.
on the second book of your series, right?
Yes.
Or yeah, the
Yeah.
third. Second. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a duology, so there's only 2.
I do wallet. Wow, it's so surprising. I feel
I
like
know.
every series is 10 books at least.
My other I've got 5 books in that series and a couple standalones. But yeah, so I guess I got a mixture.
Aw, how did it treat the rest of you guys? It looks like Zara said going to bed, but thank you. I was actually able to write, and you're able to add 422 words to 823 from earlier in the day. Glad this helped give some inspiration, Zara. And then Megan got some 800 word count. Excellent. So some of it got some progress. And let's see, how much did I get? I was kind of going back and forth. I was messing with the auto crit program, but for some reason it starts lagging really badly while I'm streaming.
Yeah.
It's really annoying. It's really, really annoying. I need to see if I can figure out a workaround. But for now, so that I don't spend too much time fidgeting, I have too much work to do. I was like, all right, I just switched back to Word.
Nice.
I don't know how many words I got because I'm kind of I'm half editing / half rewriting, but this chapter is more of an edit than a rewrite.
Yeah, that's always hard when you're adding words, deleting words, and then it's hard to kind of track your progress that way.
Yeah, so it's I'm I don't know if you really include words that you're edited or gone through as part of a word count for writing sprints, so to speak.
I'd usually go by I've finished this scene or this chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to look at it, I would say. Let's see. So I think I made it through about 400 to 500 words, I would say. 400 to 500 roughly, with a mix between editing and writing, roughly. So
Nice.
making some progress. I'm on a chapter. What is it? So I'm on a chapter where the character is going through a forest. I'm what's the right level of description for a forest? What about the rest of you
Now,
guys?
if you was token, you would have to spend half a chapter describing every leaf.
And did to describe his nature scenes, didn't he? And also wrote predominantly in an era where the internet or social media or short attention spans did not exist. Which is very much the truth. I don't think readers of this day and age want to read 2 pages about the description of a tree.
No, not at all.
Readers are much less forgiving on that aspect. Yeah, I was I'm not really spending too much description on the forest itself, but I think I did decide in the original draft I had the scarecrow fall into a lake and start drowning. And then for it to prove as an initial obstacle of okay, because that's he's exploring water. But in the second version, I think I'm going to make it that he can actually breathe underwater. I don't think water is going to affect him.
Cool.
And I think it's going to be a false alarm, false scare. He feels like he's drowning, only to realize that he can actually breathe underwater just fine.
I like that.
But I think I'm going to have him find something at the bottom of this little lake to take later on into the journey. What more fun? The question I always ask myself is every single chapter, how can I add an element of foreshadowing? That's always my goal. Every single time I do a rewrite or a draft, I'm always trying to layer on more and more elements of foreshadowing. So I think maybe that's
that's smart. Yeah.
I love foreshadowing so much. I love hitting the end of a book and then being like, or hitting like a major plot point, like, oh, that thing tied to that thing and that thing and that thing. And I love that. Those are things that I appreciate as a reader.
Yeah, that's something I think I don't think enough about is like foreshadowing. Yeah.
I know this is for a TV show, not a book, but I've been rewatching a Steven Universe, and I'm still in the first season, and I happen to notice when they get to the episode where they're like in that big like spinning kind of room thing.
Mhm.
You can see Pink Diamond and a Yellow Diamond on the wall behind them, and I did not notice that until the other day.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's like the
Really?
6th episode.
What? I need to rewatch it. Oh
Yeah,
my
dude.
gosh.
I could not
of
believe
all
it when I
those
heard it. I'm
shows-
like, wait a minute, what the heck is this? I rewound
Steven
it.
Universe is the one that I haven't seen. Is Steven Universe a good one?
Oh,
Yes.
so good. Yes.
Yes, it is very good. It really picked up, I think, in the 2nd season, but the twist for the entire series was, yeah, no, that
Mind-blowing.
was pretty good.
Yeah. Very, very unpredictable. Yes.
I try to think of like animated shows where you can tell they have a bit more of a mature plotting or a mature plot. And I
Ooh,
think
yeah.
my favorite ones is probably a toss up between Gravity Falls, which I think was like the creators of it were just there's some very good creators. And then there was a Netflix one that did some really good LGBT representation called Kipo and the
Yes.
Age of
Yes.
Wonder.
Age of the
And I was
Wonder
just
Beast.
like, I was like, yes, thank you for representing
Yes.
LGBT characters in a way where the story is not about the LGBT representation. It's an aspect of who they are as part of their journey, which I really
That's one reason
appreciate.
why I like Steven Universe so much is Garnet.
Mhm.
Is literally a lesbian couple.
Is their predominant
So,
character?
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, clearly I need to add it to my watch list.
yeah,
Yes,
dude,
please.
it is really good.
Awesome. ML, crazy. Were you guys able to get any words in or any work in on that writing sprint at all?
Well, I got only 275, but I finished a chapter and was able to start on another one. So I'm going
that's
to
good.
count
That's good
that
to
as
hit the end.
progress.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
good. You know what? As long as we're making some type of progress. I think like yesterday I got like 50 words. I'm like having technical difficulties.
No, progress is
And
progress.
I spent the first half of the sprint talking to my husband. So
Aw. I know I feel guilty because on the writers group meetings, I don't show the writing software on screen. So I'm like, okay, well now I can just get away with doing other work. But I'm like, no, I need to actually write. I need to write. There's a reason. There is a legitimate reason why back in December, I'm thinking to myself, how do I keep myself accountable? I will live stream the process. And it's actually a very effective method. I've learned it's been a very effective method for me to write basically every day.
Yeah, because others would be like, "Oh yeah, I wrote," you know.
Yeah, I wrote like 3,000 words today.
Oh, that's great.
Oh man! And then it looks like in the chat we're having a lot of love for Steven Universe, so definitely a lot of love here. And so
I want to
Courtney
look
was
at this
like, "I'm reading
official
up
art book." Sorry.
on what was that?"
Oh, Marcelo's talking about the official art book, and I was like, I need that.
Yeah.
I know
have to
Courtney was
agree.
saying I'm reading up on the 27 chapter plotting method to see if I can get out of my pantserways. Absolutely. And then I saw Marcella's, yay, Steven Universe is such an amazing series. My friend just lent me the official art book. That's probably like a really cool thing to offer as an addition to either a TV show or a series. Does it just, I wonder if it just has concept art, if that's what it is.
That's usually what those are.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually concept art, early artwork, scenes from the show or the movie that were actually like finished in the show, but you get to see like what they look like before they were finished, things like that. I've seen a raw storyboard art, and it's really neat.
Dude, that's actually kind of interesting. As you guys think about like publishing our books and getting them out there, What types of things do you guys think of like adding or giving out with the books or giving out with the brand? Have you guys thought of, because like I feel like so many different authors have so many different strategies of like, all right, I'm gonna do like a bookmark with it, or I'm gonna do like character art, or I'm gonna do some type of thing. How do you guys like figure out like what types of things to give with the books, or things to maybe incentivize readers to also buy the book?
Well, I mean, I did my artwork when I did my pre-launch thing at the convention earlier this year. So I'm thinking about just doing artwork. I had bookmarks. I have the bookmarks designed. I've got stickers.
Do you feel like it like hyped? Do you feel like it hyped readers up a little bit more with like, oh, I have this visual thing? Because I mean, obviously, artwork is more visual.
People were walking by. Level. Some paid attention, but but more people started paying attention when I started sketching the creatures in the series. So yeah, no, the official artwork would be good.
Yeah. Maybe it's because like people wanted to be involved in the process, almost like like live streaming. People want to be involved because it's happening right now.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's why. That's a really smart idea to sketch while you're. It
wasn't even on purpose. I was bored.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes the best ideas happen as a result of a happy accident.
So true.
That is true.
Yeah, I think the artwork, like the character art, I always like that to like see what they look like, and or at least how the author like thought up these characters should look like, and the outfits, and then I always like having like the bookmark that like can kind of go with the book while I'm reading it. So that's what I'm planning on doing for Diamond. And then I did get some separate art that I kind of wanted to have for like my book signing event as like a thank you for people coming.
That's right, because you said your book launch is in a month, right? It's in roughly a month.
Yeah, it comes out on the 5th, and then the release signing event is on the 16th. So I've got like a little bit of time after.
That's exciting.
I got to start like looking into that, like the details.
What's a book launch like? I've never done a book launch before.
Yeah, so
what has it been like for you guys?
Well, like my friends in Indiana, both traditional and self-published, have found like a lot of success. I'm like, I need to go to this Barnes and Noble in Indiana, because they're like where they set up chairs, they let them have talk about it, have a Q&A, do a reading, all of that stuff.
Was it because they just had like a good relationship with like whoever the owner was of that Barnes and Noble, and they just got a good?
Because my self-published friend, like the second book in her trilogy, it did really well. So then when she went back because I think the third book came out around the pandemic or something, but like, so for her new series, she was like, hey, I sold 60 books with you at my last event. And so like that kind of sparked their like interest, and had them like accept her coming back.
Like give more, to like offer more time. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And so like, but all like the Barnes and Nobles by me, no matter if I went to like a smaller one, a bigger one, like Zara tried to contact like 3 or 4 different Barnes and Nobles, and they all said like they can't bring out chairs, I can't have a Q&A, I can't even do a Q&A 10 minutes before the signing with people
what did they give you? So the Barnes and Noble.
So I changed my release party. I changed it to a signing event, because they said I can have my table and people can sign, like I can sign the book, like take pictures, but that's like pretty much it. So I can't have like kind of more of a sit down thing. So I know others.
Was it more from like the aspect of they didn't want you to pull attention from shoppers?
Well,
or like they don't want you to bring in like
they
audio
want that, but
stuff?
They just said that they just won't have a lot of room, and November's really busy, and so they just don't want to overwhelm the store. But that's why I tried to go to like a bigger one, like attached to the mall. That was 2 floors, and they said the same thing. So
I wonder if there'd be more success with like local bookstores as compared to a chain.
Yeah, and I tried contacting. Yeah, I tried contacting so many like local indie bookstores, and no one even got back to me. So
clearly that doesn't work.
Hopefully with one book under my belt, and then I can like, I don't know, talk about sales or something like that, and then because I went to a book release event for Celestial Monsters by Aidan Thomas at a local bookshop, and they had chairs, they did the Q&A, so I was like, ooh, okay, I need to like try to reach out to them for next time.
Figure out like how they did it.
Yeah.
I guess when like I think about a book event or a book signing, essentially what they're doing is they're giving up space, and this is assuming that they're not charging you for the space.
No.
But essentially a business is giving up space with the hopes that whatever you're doing is going to bring more people to, essentially it comes down to money. They want people to spend more money. That's like at the heart of it.
Yeah.
So if you are a first-time author or you're a newer author, your ability to prove consistency and the capability to bring in people to buy something is probably a higher risk for them, for the business. Whereas if somebody's like, 10 books out, clearly I've been writing books and people are buying them, then that's probably easier to prove.
Yeah.
At least that would be my guess, just from managing retail businesses for 6 years.
I think so. And then, plus like if you're at that bookstore, they're going to stock your book. So they're going to buy however many copies and whatever's left.
That's shelf space.
Yeah. So you have to sell enough so that they don't have this like huge stock and that they're making that profit too. So it's this whole, it's all business. So.
So didn't you do your book launch at a convention?
It was a pre-book launch, and what I did is I had my author copy with me, so people could actually like flip through it, and it had a big sticker on the front that said author copy. And I had business
and people
cards.
kind of like were able to read like the first chapter or like skim through.
Yeah, no, they could. Yeah, I had quite a few people just flip through the book and kind of skim it. I know one person, I actually saw them stop in the middle, which I thought was kind of interesting because if I recall where they stopped, it wasn't exactly like a huge part. It was more character development heavy rather than action heavy. So that was kind of interesting. I kind of figured they would stop at a different part, but no, they actually seem more interested in that, which I found interesting.
Cool.
It's super awesome. I'm always asking people all the things, especially because I'm thinking about my book launch with Scarecrow next year. It's interesting because I always like bring on a lot of guests on the Sunday podcast to really like learn about different aspects of it. But it's part of me feels selfish because I'm like, well, I want to learn so I can do it as well. But I feel like I get so much value out of it, and then it's also helping the community at the same time, which is super cool. And actually, speaking of guests, this Sunday, where the guest is actually Holly's publisher, Zara. So Zara is going to be the podcast guest, and Zara founded her own indie publishing company in Inimitable Books. So, like, as the head of a publishing company, we're going to have a great conversation. I think Zara has so much knowledge in the publishing industry. So that'll be super cool. That'll be our podcast this weekend. And then as I'm thinking about events, all of you probably know about the fiction contest. I just want to do a real quick ad for it. Our fiction contest. I highly hope all of you will submit or be involved with it. It's going to be very, very cool. And for anyone here in the stream, our Freaky Friday Flash Fiction contest will be later this month. We're already in October. We're in October. So I highly encourage everyone to submit. There's going to be a lot of value proposition. Everybody, if you're chosen as a finalist, you'll get your work published in an anthology. You'll get a critique from either myself or Penelope. You will get a live reading by a guest author. And the top 4 winners will win $20 gift cards for Barnes & Noble. Speaking of the Barnes & Noble. So that'll be, it's going to be a fun event. Very, very fun event. The submission link and guidelines is down in the YouTube description down below.
Very exciting.
I hope everyone will be involved. So are you going to submit a story?
I might. I've been so out of it this whole week that I haven't really done anything.
That's okay. You still got 2 more weeks. And if there's one thing I know, you can literally do 1,000 words in like 20 minutes. quite literally.
Yeah, I got 870 today in a 25 minutes, so 1,000 words is gonna be nothing. But horror is just not really my thing. I mean, I can't watch it. I can hardly read it. So
that I totally understand, right? If it's outside of your genre, that's definitely a little bit. It's a little bit more of a haul. Yeah, absolutely. And ML and Crazy, I hope both of you guys submit as well. I hope both you guys.
I've already. My entry is already in.
ML's gonna like take it for the win over here. I love it.
I don't know about that. But I did enjoy the flash fiction. I didn't think I would, but it was a challenge trying to tell a horror story in those few words.
Yeah, I know that is definitely the challenge. I don't think a lot of people realize is that it feels like it would be easier, but you're like limited. It's literally that the word count limit is the challenge. And it's like, how do you tell an amazing story in such a small amount of words? I was like, guys, I'm happy to write with you all and able to do 428. So I'm glad to join you all. Courtney, so excited for this contest. Horror isn't my thing either, but I enjoy doing mine. It's more dark romance thriller. Megan, going to try my best for this contest. I know we've had a lot of excitement and hype for it. Whether or not horror, and remember there's 4 genres, right? So we're accepting horror, thriller, mystery, or supernatural. So you technically could play into one of those other genres. Let's say you're not good at horror. You could play into supernatural. Think of maybe like what might like a ghost story maybe be, or like a lighthearted ghost story. We've all heard ghost stories. Or maybe thinking something that might involve like a supernatural creature. That could be something fun. I mean, the contest is being hosted by the creepy Miss Jezebel. So that's the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, honestly, you just gave me an idea for a story I could do. So
Ooh, I love it. I love it. So I was going to try to take the trophy over here. Awesome. So I wanted to do that. Now, as we're hitting, so it looks like we're hitting about the 145 mark. Do you guys want to do another sprint? How are you guys feeling?
I wouldn't mind because I'm honestly getting really close to a part I've been looking forward to.
Okay. Let's do a shorter one because we're hitting up on that 2-hour mark. That way I can be fair to all of our time. So I'll do 20 minutes this time. And let's try to get a little bit more writing in today. Clearly we got so caught up in all our conversations.
Conversations.
Woo! I know. I feel like I've like learned so much from you guys today. Awesome. So I got 20 minutes on the clock. Let's get some writing in, whether you're brainstorming, writing, or editing. And I'll cue up the timer because it's time to write now. All right. And that is the writing sprint. Wonderful, wonderful. Getting some good writing in. I think I was a little bit more productive that time. I think so. I felt like I was starting to get into the vibe that time. So I'm like, all right, I felt good. Not worrying about writing programs is a plus.
That helps.
How'd that treat you guys? And able to make any progress?
720 words, and I'm like right at the moment.
How
I've been
much
waiting
did you just
for.
wait? How many? Did you say like 1,000?
720.
Oh, 720. Okay, awesome. Good. I was like, we're all making progress. I feel like the competition becomes who can write more words than Chatzel.
No one.
Yeah, no.
No one. So you'll seem to have the reigning writing sprint word count for our community.
Yeah, I had to help my husband bring in the groceries, and then we were talking a little bit, but I did get 51 words, so it's something.
Ooh. Okay, no, that's awesome. I mean, I think any type of progress we can make is good. It's always challenge, right? When you're sitting down to do a writing sprint and then you get distracted by something. Now, obviously, if it's like social media or something like preventable, that's one thing. But then if you get distracted by life, especially people who have like families or like things outside of your control, you're like, oh, well, what can you do?
Yes, or dogs asking to go outside.
I was gonna say, did
Dogs
that cat
or
turn
zero.
into a dog?
No,
Yeah.
he was on the
Oh, okay.
on the back, and then
Freaked me out there.
that's Oliver there, sleeping on the couch. But
Okay.
yeah,
Got some black cat magic woman right there.
he's still
Right.
around.
I think I did slightly better. I think I got about the same. I did about 400 to 500 that time.
Oh.
So roughly about the same. But I think that makes some excellent, wonderful progress for us. I hope you were here in the chat able to make some as well. 320 words, got a little bit. Yeah, I did once. Chatsoul is the queen of word counts. You're like, Chatsoul, you will win the word count competition. Having pets can be a challenge, absolutely. But I just want to say it has been phenomenal today. I feel like we've had some really good conversations, and it's that time to wrap up the meeting. So you guys have been awesome. I learned a little bit, and I'm glad we got some actual work done as well. So if you're here in the live stream, definitely hope you guys got value out of this as well. I just want to take a moment and thank each of you, Soul, Holly, ML, and Crazy. Thanks for joining me today. I always really appreciate our time together.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always fun.
It was fun. I've been wanting to join every week, and finally I just bit the bullet.
Does it feel like it helps provide like a little more maybe consistency, or maybe like, all right, now I'm on the camera, I got to write. I'm like, that's what I'm hoping. But I've really tried to formulate this off of like a real writers group. So like that's my intention with this, to feel like for those of us who might be in the middle of nowhere and might not actually be able to go to a writers group, or maybe we're too busy to make that commitment. Like, hey, I got a busy lifestyle. I can't actually go somewhere every week. That's what this is for. So whether you hop on the live stream or joining us in the chat, that is the Right Now Writers Group. Thank you so much, my friends, for joining me. You guys are awesome. And with that being said, thank you all for joining us in the live stream community. You guys are great. Today, the Right Now Writers Group is very much fun. We've had a very active group, and we'll be back next week. Same time, same place, here on the Right Now community. And as we look towards creative writing on the morrow, I'll be back for our early live stream, 11 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. We're getting in our little early writing vibe, writing style, as I try to figure out how to keep working through Last Scarecrow. So come join us, and it'll be fun. And if you enjoyed the stream, tap that like button on your way out. Help us show the algorithms that writing streams are cool. Thank you all so much for joining us. You guys are awesome. Megan, Courtney, we appreciate you in the chat. Al, some of our other friends, Marcella, Roth. We had a lot of other writers. We really appreciate you. And that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.